The following program contains strong language, tales of the strange, the tragic, and the downright far out. Some stories may include sensitive topics, dark themes, true crime, and mental health. Listener discretion is advised, but curiosity is always welcome. Oh, Disneyland, the happiest place on earth. It's so nostalgic, it's comforting, it's dopamine wrapped in churros and memories, childhood memories, and adult memories too. Like, not that kind of adult. You know what I'm saying. Nothing bad could possibly, ever happen there. So you'd think. But bad things have happened there. And not just once. Because behind the pixie dust, behind the smiling cast members, and the engineered scents of baked cookies that you smell walking down Main Street, some guests have met their demise there. But, not legally on Disney property. Well, hey there, my strange friends, my cosmic wanderers, my beautifully curious little weirdos. It's me, Tessyrella, and wow, it's been a long time. We are 6 months into 2026, and I am getting to the first episode of the year. Did you miss me? Welcome back to Strange and Far Out, where we explore the weird, the dark, nostalgic, the spooky, the psychological, and all the strange little corners of human behavior. And today, we're stepping into a magical place that feels kind of untouchable. My first, most favorite place. My dose of dopamine, my little escape from reality, Disneyland. A place built on magic, childhood, nostalgia, escapism, and the comforting illusion that everything is always okay. But today we're not talking about that. There's no hookah smoking caterpillars. We're talking about what happens when the reality of the real world slips into the gates of Disney. It's time for my mood ring moment. This week, my mood is glowing purple and teal, like Madame Leota's crystal ball. But what does it all mean? What does it all mean? Well, according to my very official mood ring charts, maybe it means happy, mystical, energized, enthusiastic, hopeful, sprinkled with above average. I'm going to say above average amount of anxiety. I gotta succeed somewhere in life, and I guess that's where it's gonna be. Or maybe it means a new beginning. But anyway, it's been a long time. I think the last time that I was here, I got stuck in between the liminal space between Christmas and New Year's, and it took me 6 months to get back. 2025 was quite the year. I was on a healing journey and I got to be home and start this podcast and just, kind of think about what I really wanted. And then 2026 started. And I kind of hit the ground running because I got a new job very close to home, new schedule. I used to be a night shift person and now I'm a day shift person. And it's just all new. Very many changes all happened at one time. And I'm a creature of habit. So I don't really, not that I don't welcome change, but immediate change really scares me. But yeah, so I left a really toxic job, got a new one, and it's taken me some time to be able to get into the swing of things. I didn't know if I wanted to even continue this podcast because I've just been in my head a lot thinking like, who the hell is going to want to listen to me? Who the fuck do you think you are? Then I realized that there are just millions of people doing this and not giving a fuck. So here I am, not giving a fuck and doing this. So thank you for welcoming. Thank you so much for tuning in to listen to me. Also, I keep trying to find the perfect time to record and perfect area and I'm just never going to get that in this moment. I am recording from home. You are going to hear airplanes go by. I live by a train station. And there's always something happen. A dog barking and my assistants, which I have one here with me right now. My little guy. I call him Tom York. He looks just like Tom York from Radiohead. He's just adorable and he's right here and he's very vocal. If you don't know, I am a cat lady. Actually, my husband is what I call a pussy magnet. Okay. I've never had pet cats in my adult life until my husband. And now we are, I don't even want to say the number of cats we have, but we have cats, plural, and one is here right now. So you might hear an occasional meow. You might hear a bark from my neighbor's dogs, and I'm just gonna keep it going. I'm not even gonna care anymore. So it'll be raw. It'll be cool. It'll be surprising. Okay, it's time for our weird news time capsule. And what would a Disneyland episode be without talking about the man who started it all, Walt Disney? So let's get into his early life. Walt Disney was born Walter Elias Disney on December 5th, 1901 in Chicago, Illinois. He spent part of his childhood in Marceline, Missouri, and that place held a special place in his heart because it would later inspire some of the small town nostalgic Disney feeling that you see going down Main Street. That was all based off of Marceline, Missouri. And in 1923, after some early animation business ventures failed in the Midwest, Walt Disney moved to Hollywood, California. He moved here with his older brother, Roy, and they both founded the Disney Brothers Studio. Then, in 1928, Walt Disney and the animator Ub Iwerks created Mickey Mouse. And then, July 17th, 1955, Walt's dreams become reality because Disneyland opens. Walt envisioned an immersive amusement park where people of all ages could come with their families and step into another world and basically abandon all reality and be in this place that is near perfect. Sadly, on December 15th, 1966, Walt Disney passes away from complications of lung cancer, and he left behind this enormous legacy of films, characters, theme parks, childhood memories, and a whole emotional empire. But I'm sure you've heard the urban legend that he is frozen, that he froze his body, that he froze his head. Right? You've heard that rumor. So, how did that rumor even start? I think it was because Walt Disney died on the 15th, and then they held a private funeral on the 16th. Apparently, only the immediate family attended, and then shortly after, he was cremated. Now, I don't fancy myself a conspiracy theorist at all, but wouldn't you think that somebody as big as Walt Disney, wouldn't you think that he would have this like huge send off? Like, imagine, like, if you think about it, in another universe or a parallel reality, Walt Disney would have had the biggest celebration of life. You know, like, I don't know, I imagine it would have been this huge affair, but it wasn't. It was really private. It was fast, and people started wondering, like, people were very curious about it. In 1967, a reporter from a tabloid called the National Spotlight claimed he snuck into St. Joseph's Hospital in Burbank dressed as a worker and allegedly saw Walt Disney suspended in a cryogenics chamber. Back then, people were doing this. They were super invasive. Not to say, I'm sure, like, now people just share all their business on social media, but back then, these tabloid reporters were fucking vicious. I mean, I even read that Lucille Ball got her pregnancy results in a tabloid story rather than from her doctor, because people were just sneaking into fucking hospitals and clinics. And I mean, thank goodness for HIPAA now and shit, but back then people were doing some crazy shit. So this guy claimed that he saw Walt Disney there at the hospital. Now, I find it hard to imagine, working in hospitals myself, that there would be a whole unit dedicated to cryogenics. I mean, that would be really fucking cool. I've never worked in a hospital like that. If I did, that would be something that I would want to see. I'd be really interested in that. But I digress. That's what this man said, and soon after, rumors started spreading that Walt was being stored underneath the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. I've heard different versions. Some say it was his whole body that was frozen, and then some just say it was his head, because apparently, even in death, the man needed options, you know? So Walt's daughter tried to shut down the rumor immediately. She said that her dad didn't even know. And I quote, she said, "My dad didn't even know what the fuck cryogenics was." Just kidding, she didn't say that. But basically, that's what she said. And other people argue that Walt did love the future. He loved technology. He loved innovation. So maybe, just maybe, he froze himself in hopes that one day there would be a cure for cancer. Now, I did some searching and I could not find any actual accounts of anyone seeing Walt's frozen body underneath. the Pirates of the Caribbean or anywhere at Disneyland. So just rumors, just whispers. I even went into Reddit. I looked. Just it was just a lot of people with a lot of imagination. But if you have any accounts, please reach out to me because I'd like to know. But allegedly, Walt Disney was cremated shortly after his death. Remember, death on the 15th, funeral on the 16th. This man was cremated on the 17th, and his ashes were reportedly buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale. Let's fire up the Far Out Time Machine. So hold on to your mouse ears. Remain seated, please. Deben ser sentados, por favor. I don't even know if I said that right, but don't get at me. I don't speak fluent Spanish, but I try. We are now moving to the year 1967, the year that the Pirates of the Caribbean opened. Pirates was actually the last ride that Walt Disney personally oversaw. He passed away just months before it opened. Originally, Walt envisioned Pirates as a walkthrough museum attraction. Could you imagine if that's what Pirates of the Caribbean was? How long do you think that would have lasted? Because, they did away with a lot of things. I find it hard to believe that a walkthrough Pirates attraction wouldn't have been torn down within like 10 years. But thankfully, after the 1964 and 1965 New York World's Fair, Disney had new technology to work with: boat ride systems, audio animatronics, and immersive storytelling. Imagineers realized that they could take the boat capacity system from It's a Small World, the animatronic technology that Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln had, and amplify Pirates into like a full ride experience. But there was just one thing they could not get right, which was human skeletons. You would think, with all the advancements in audio animatronics, that skeletons would be pretty fucking easy. Like, you can do all this stuff. You can make a whole person move and talk, but a fucking skeleton is a make or break. But apparently, the fake skeletons of the time were just made of rubber and molded plastic, so they looked fake. They looked glossy. They looked plastic. They looked like cheap Halloween decorations. That was the vibe. But former Disney producer Jason Sorrell wrote in his book Pirates of the Caribbean: From the Magic Kingdom to the Movies that the faux skeletons of the period were just too unconvincing. So I get it. If you're building an immersive pirate world and your skeleton looks like it comes from Party City, that kind of ruins the vibe. I mean, it could be very camp and kitsch, but I don't think that's the vibe that Pirates was going for. It was supposed to be scary. It was supposed to be real. So I started thinking, why couldn't they just sculpt the skeletons and paint them to make them look realistic? But I guess that sculpting dozens of anatomically accurate bones out of high-end materials would have been like labor intensive and expensive and time consuming. And time is money. So what did Disney do to solve the problem? They sourced actual medical skeletons from UCLA Medical Center. Actual human skeletons. And I'm sure that the people who donated their bodies to science did not think that they would be, end up as a prop on an amusement park ride. I mean, I would sign up for that, but I don't think Aunt Marge and Uncle Earl wanted their bodies up on display like that. But these real human skeletons were cheaper, faster, and unfortunately more realistic. In Jason Sorrell's book, he says that eventually, as fake skeleton technology improved, a new generation of Imagineers replaced the real ones. And those real skeletons were reportedly returned to their countries of origin and given a proper burial. However, there is still some speculation that one real skeleton remains on the ride. And I have heard that, okay, if you've been on the ride, there's the part of the ride where there's a pirate sitting in a bed with treasure just everywhere, with the gold, everything like that. So not that skeleton that's sitting there, but the skull that is in the headboard of the bed that the skeleton is sitting on. That's what I've heard, and I've just heard that because someone told me that. I don't know if there's any validity to what I heard, but that's the one I heard. So again, if you've heard different, I'd like to know. So let me know. So types of incidents at the park generally fall into a few categories. One being guest wrongdoing, so ignoring safety rules, climbing where they shouldn't, trying to sneak in somewhere, or intentionally breaking the park rules. Health-related events, known health issues or unknown medical conditions, cardiac events, emergencies that could possibly just happen anywhere, and park or ride negligence, which would be like park or ride negligence. That would be like operator error or maintenance issues, safety failures. And then the rest are just like generic accidents like slips and falls and just unpredictable things like that. So with that in mind, let's hop into our Doom Buggy and revisit some of the earliest and most horrific deaths connected to Disneyland. Now, I'm keeping this short and sweet. There were a lot that I wanted to cover, but I just wanted to do some of the very first that have happened. First up, on this little Disneyland death tour, we are talking about the Matterhorn bobsleds. We are back in 1964. Now, the Matterhorn is one of my favorite nostalgic rides, but no one ever wants to go on it with me. I think it's just the way your bits and pieces can get rearranged on that ride, just like the Goofy Sky School. I don't know. Or maybe they can sense the sinister events that have occurred on this ride. But the Matterhorn was one of Disneyland's original thrill rides that took you on a bumpy and jerky trip in a bobsled through a snow-capped mountain. From photos I've looked up, the seating arrangements, they've changed a bit throughout the years, but I was trying to specifically look what it looked like the seating arrangements in 1964. I remember having to sit in between people's legs. So I was trying to think, is it like that? The way it would be was riders would sit 2 in the front and 2 in the back. So they would be sitting in between each other's legs with a single seatbelt securing the passengers in. I could be wrong here, but that's how I remember it again as a kid. And that's what it appeared to look like from photos from 1959. So this first incident occurred May 1964, just 5 years after the ride opened. I've read several accounts of this particular incident, but this is what I've gathered about what happened that night. So, after being grounded for a week, 15-year-old Mark Maples of Long Beach, California, is finally able to enjoy freedom again. To celebrate, he attends an after-hours Elks Club event at Disneyland with his brothers. Maples and two fellow teenage classmates board the Matterhorn ride. I've read that he was on the ride with his girlfriend or that he was trying to impress a girl on the ride, but ultimately the details are a bit murky. It was said that it was dark, it was around midnight, and there was really no telling exactly what transpired. One of the teens with Maples said that the bobsleds were beginning its descent down the mountain when he felt Maples bump into him. He said that he was looking up, heard a noise, looked down, then recognized that he saw Mark's sweater as he was falling out the side of the ride. It was speculated by Disneyland officials that Maple removed his seatbelt and stood up on the ride as it was going to go down, striking his head on the side of the mountain, then vertically falling about 1 foot aside the tracks. Apparently at the time, ride operators didn't believe what had happened because the age of the people that were reporting what they saw, they were just thinking like, okay, these kids were fucking with us, nothing really happened. But I mean, you should always just take something like that seriously. Maples was taken to a nearby hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. His father reported that he believed that Mark was a victim of hazing, though this could not be verified. Mark Maples was the first reported death resulting from injuries sustained at Disneyland. Next, we are taking a trip to the rivers of America. On June 22nd, 1973, brothers 18-year-old Bogdan and 10-year-old Dorian Delarue were visiting Disneyland from Brooklyn, New York. The brothers had been having a good time on Tom Sawyer's Island, and if you're not familiar, it's located in the center of Rivers of America. You know, you have to take like a raft to get there. I love going there. So the boys were having a blast, and they decided like they wanted to stay on that island. They didn't want to leave. So when you're there at closing time, it's like 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I don't know what time they used to close it, but typically the cast members, they start to wrangle up visitors to return to the park because you have to take a raft to get back. And while staff attempted to do that, the brothers jumped a fence and allegedly hid in the woods behind the burning settler's cabin. You could see this burning settler's cabin when you are on the train that takes you around the park. It's on the back side of Rivers of America, and you'll see it there. Now, I visit Tom Sawyer's Island quite often. I've never been that far back. I just do what my kids want to do. Okay? I don't hop any fences, but I know you can have a view. You have a view of this burning settler's cabin when you're on the train. Around 9:30 p.m., the boys decided to leave the island and go back to the main park. But instead of calling for help so that they can get like rafted back to the park, they thought that it would be best to swim across Rivers of America. And due to the 10-year-old brother Dorian's inability to swim, his 18-year-old brother Bogdan decided that it would be best to put his brother on his back and attempt to swim across. But midway, Bogdan slipped and drowned. Little brother Dorian thankfully was able to doggy paddle and stay afloat until a cast member spotted him. Anaheim police, firefighters, and Disney police spent 8 hours searching for Bogdan. His body was found the next morning by fake rocks near the island. I know that I've seen pictures of a fully drained Rivers of America, and I don't recall it looking that deep, but I did read that the Rivers of America is approximately 4 to 8 feet deep, but there are also rocks and such that line the river. I know that you would think like, oh my gosh, it has huge boats that go through, but those boats happen to be on tracks. It was dark when all of this happened. And gosh, I can't imagine how terrifying his last moments were and how traumatized his 10-year-old brother was. There isn't much more that I could find on this story other than that the parents did attempt to sue Disney, claiming that the Tom and Huck attraction had enticed the boys into being mischievous. But Disney is very secretive about this type of stuff, and there weren't any conclusions that I was able to find that had been reported in regards to this really terrible tragedy. This next story is one of the most well-known, tragic, just wild Disneyland demises. It's Deborah Gale on America Sings 1974. Deborah Gale Stone was a young cast member. She was only 18 years old, and she was working inside the America Sings attraction, just doing her job. So America Sings is turned into Interventions. Now it's like the Star Wars docking bay. It's been through a lot of changes throughout the years. And in 1974, it was an attraction called America Sings. For Deborah, it was just another shift. It was just another day. And then something went terribly wrong. She became trapped between the moving walls. So the way that it was like going, I guess, like the walls would rotate between attractions, and she was somebody that would like announce the next attraction coming up. I'm going to read an article from the Los Angeles Times that describes the incident in great detail because this was just crazy. The headline says, "Girl Employee Killed at Disneyland." Summertime employee Deborah Gale Stone, 18, was crushed to death Monday night at Disneyland's new $600 million attraction, America Sings. The 5'2" brunette was caught between a stationary and a moving wall as an outer ring of 6 theaters rotated like a merry-go-round past the central fixed inner stage. The attraction, which opened June 29th, was closed indefinitely while Disneyland investigated how an accident, believed to be impossible, happened. Miss Stone's job was to greet audiences at the beginning of a 24-minute program and bid them goodbye at the end. She stood at the front on the left side of the stage and spoke through a microphone. She died at 11 p.m. during a 45-second interval when the audience had left the theater and it was moving into position to start a new cycle. Daniel Robinson, age 33, a member of the Air Force from Castle Air Force Base near Merced, was sitting with his family in the front row of an adjoining theater. He told investigators he looked to his right, saw what he thought was a child being pulled between the platform wall, and heard a scream. When the platform stopped, he said he notified operators. Miss Stone of 1933 Avalon Street in Santa Ana was the first employee to be killed in an accident at Disneyland during its 19-year history. 4 visitors have died in the park in other accidents. And this is what gets me about this one. It's just how ordinary it started And it wasn't someone sneaking into the park. It wasn't someone breaking the rules. It was work, a shift, a normal day that became horrific. So I am moving on to another topic that isn't exactly a death or an accident. We are talking about ash scattering at Disneyland. And I know that when somebody passes away, what do you want to do? You want to put them to rest at one of their favorite places. People do it at the beach all the time, parks that you may have enjoyed. You know, you just want to have your loved one rest at their most happiest place. And there has been several reports of families scattering ashes inside Disney attractions. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't know that I would scatter anyone's ashes inside of a building that I know is going to get cleaned up and thrown away. Now, I think that I would, if I were to do something like this, it would be in the soil, you know? And like, I don't know, maybe throw some water. Maybe throw some water over it and see what grows. Oh my God. Hey, but you didn't hear that from me because listen, Disney doesn't romanticize this and they don't like it very much. Okay. There's actually a code I read, and don't quote me, and I think it's right, that it is a code white powder. Now, I don't fuck with any sort of white powder, but apparently, again, Disney doesn't either, because if there is any reports of someone scattering ashes, they call a code white powder and it's immediately cleaned up because it is a health hazard. You don't want to be breathing in somebody's insides. Okay, so don't do that. Don't scatter ashes inside any sort of Disneyland ride because it is frowned upon and they don't allow it and it has to be cleaned up. And that's that. I mean, I know people tried doing it in the Haunted Mansion. I mean, again, it's kind of gross to put it in a ride. Just go back into the earth. But you didn't hear it from me because Disney does not like that. About Disneyland deaths, you think, how could something so tragic, so real life happen at Disneyland? And if Disneyland wants to choose to shield the outside world of these real life happenings, I think it is within their rights. You go to Disneyland for an experience. You go so that you could escape reality, right? So if they are doing their darndest to shield other park goers having their experience from someone that is having the worst experience of their life, I mean, I think that's pretty damn good customer service. There are a lot of things I don't agree with that go on at the Disneyland parks, but I know that they are committed to guest experience. It just feels so unsettling that bad things happen there. And I think that's why these stories stick with us more than others that happen just at a regular carnival or at a fair, because Disneyland represents something bigger. It represents childhood, safety, escapism, and most of all, control. It's a controlled environment. Disneyland is supposed to be the place where the outside world disappears, where reality is softened, where everything is curated, where every smell, sound, color, and pathway is designed to make you feel something. And with that being said, that's what this is really about. It's not just about Disneyland, but the idea of wanting something to stay perfect. And that is something that is just extremely anxiety inducing because when something is so perfect, you want it to stay untouched and you want it to stay magical and to stay the way that we remember it. But the truth is, that just doesn't happen. Places change, people change, we change. Even the things that we love most change and are still a part of the real world. And that is very uncomfortable, but also very, very human. So, thank you so much for spending this strange little moment in time with me. So, whether you're listening in your car, laying in your bed, working, I don't know, cleaning your house, disassociating on your Target run, I don't know, or just sitting with your thoughts, I'm just glad that you're here. And I'm really glad to be back. So thank you again. And remember, keep it weird, keep it kind, and don't forget your flashlight. Until next time.